So we sold our company a few years back and took a leap of faith, man. Moved to Bardstown, Kentucky, which is the bourbon capital of the world. I found an abandoned Holiday Inn hotel and decided I was going to turn it into a bourbon boutique hotel called the Trail Hotel. And man, woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, and it was like a dark night of the soul. Felt fear, felt anxiety, really felt a demonic presence. What is going on? I heard this voice that said, I interrupt you to bring you this special announcement. And it said, welcome to the divine interruption. Well, I think you just realize how fragile life really is, right?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about the things that really matter. You get in enough battles, and then not only that, but you're just tired, man. You fought enough dragons. You're taking your armor off at night, right? And you got arrows in the back of you. You got things all over your shield. It's a lonely place for a lot of men, you know, and I don't think we're talking about that enough. And so I'm sitting in a therapy session one day, and all of a sudden I get a vision of that little chubby kid and getting made fun of, and I didn't even realize that I'd held on to that wound, you know, that pain. You want to go back to that little boy and just kind of put your arms around him and be like, no, you're gonna be all right. I ended up literally doing like 7 21-day fast in 1 year. I did a 33-day fast, only water. And it ended up leading me to basically back-to-back lung collapses.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bringing guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. If that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board today. Thank you. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest for the first time, Mr. Will Hardy.
Thank you, brother.
Will,
So good to see you, Joe.
so glad to have you here.
Man, it's an honor.
So real quick, guys, I got introduced to Will by our friend Terry Barga of Nashville Fit Magazine. Terry's the man.
Good old Terry. Yeah.
He put you and I together in an email, and I was like, hell yeah, reached out, and here you are from Atlanta, right?
Well, Kentucky now.
Oh, Kentucky,
So,
Kentucky.
Yeah, my wife and I, we lived in Atlanta for 23 years, 4 children out there.
What part?
Peachtree City, Sharpsburg,
I
Peachtree
used to live in
City.
Peachtree City
You're lying.
when I was a kid.
No kidding?
Yeah, we lived in Peachtree City, Fayetteville, and
That's
then
wild, man.
also Flowery Branch at one point.
So
yeah.
small world, man.
Yeah.
So we sold our company a few years back and took a leap of faith, man. Moved to Bardstown, Kentucky, which is the bourbon capital of the world, and which is originally where I'm from. So I grew up in Kentucky, and but went away after college to LA. From LA to Atlanta. Never thought I was coming back, and man, God had a plan.
Right on, man. Well, I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah.
Will, what does life look like for you today? You know, what do you just
Yeah.
overall, what do you do? You know, just kind of briefly cover that before we take it back.
Sure, man. Yeah. So I'm a real estate guy by trade. That's kind of where I've made, you know, some influence and some income in my life, obviously.
Yeah.
And but I moved to Bardstown, Kentucky because I found an abandoned Holiday Inn hotel and decided I was going to turn it into a bourbon boutique hotel called the Trail Hotel.
Nice.
And so it's a full bourbon-centric hospitality for the Bourbon Trail, basically. So
Okay.
beautiful restaurant, 5 bars on site, private speakeasy, 95 rooms, and it's basically a one-stop shop for the Bourbon Trail. So if
Super
you're ever
cool.
come to Bourbon Country, it's kind of like Napa Valley of the South,
Yeah.
right? So I do that, but you know, really my main passion in life right now is filmmaking, man. So
Really?
I'm a film producer. Yeah, long journey of I'll get into all those stories with you,
Yeah.
I'm sure, at some point. But that's where I'm putting a lot of my attention right now in film development. So
Before we take it back, you said something along the lines of the second half better than the first half, right? Or,
Yeah.
you know, you could probably quote it better, but what's,
yeah, I'm 47 now. I was 43, I believe. And man, living a pretty good life, right? I mean, you know, very comfortable life, some money in the bank, had a wife that loved me, had healthy kids, and you know, kind of on track, running at a pretty fast pace with real estate.
yeah.
And man, woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning, and it was like a dark night of the soul. You know, just felt fear, felt anxiety, really felt a demonic presence. You know, just was like, what is going on? You know, and of course, and I'm kind of a power of positive thinking guy, right? You know, kind of laws of attraction. And I'm kind of thinking like I'm walking myself off the ledge of like, where's this fear coming from? Why am I even feeling this? You know, and And so I finally ended up going back to bed a few hours later. Second night, 3 o'clock in the morning, boom, same thing hit me.
Yeah.
Well, this went on for 3 nights. And I finally heard when I woke up that third morning, it was like a TV screen. It was like almost like I saw it in a vision, but I was asleep. And you know, the old TV screens that you would, I'm a little older than you, but as a little boy, you'd sit there and every night the networks would shut down at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. And so the screen would go static, but they would say, I interrupt you to bring you this special announcement.
Okay.
And then the network would shut off. Right. And of course, as a little kid, you're like, dang it,
Guess I gotta go to bed or something.
Exactly. Exactly. And well, that's what I heard. I heard this voice that said, I interrupt you to bring you this special announcement. And it said, welcome to the divine interruption. And dude, it was like, what is going on? Like, God, are you speaking to me? Like, what is this? And I just felt like it was this thing where it was a raising up. It was a higher call. It was that, I guess some people in their mid 40s, end up, going to buy a Harley or, getting a ponytail or, leaving their wife or, whatever, buying that car they always wanted, And for me, it was just like, son, there's something more that I want for you in your life. And I'm calling you into a higher place. And that took me on a really intense journey of inner healing, man.
Yeah.
Therapy and really digging deep with some of the original traumas and wounds that I've had, from my childhood. And I had 2 great parents. I had grandparents that loved me. It was nothing specific about their upbringing and raising me up, but it was just, the shit you deal with in life, man.
100%.
The baggage you carry and the things that you struggle with. And so that just kind of put me on a path of going, I want to run the second half better than the first, more intentional, more present, more on purpose, and more in love, man.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How old are you?
47.
I mean, you obviously take your health very seriously too, but I think first and foremost is taking care of your mind.
Yeah.
And we'll dive more into that. And I think that's really cool because it gives me a lot of, I'm at a place in my life where it's just been a grind, bro, but the more I've heard about it more lately is that for some reason, that late 30s, early 40s age, especially as an entrepreneur, like that's when the shift happens so much, it seems to be pretty common with these uber successful people.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you just realize how fragile life really is, right?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about the things that really matter, right? And you get in enough battles. And then not only that, but you're fucking tired, man. I mean, it's like, you fought enough dragons, it's like you're taking your armor off at night, right? And you got arrows in the back of you. You got dings all over your shield. Yeah. And you just lay it there, and it's a lonely place for a lot of men, and I don't think we're talking about that enough.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna bring it to light even more.
All right.
So, Will, let's take it back. Take it back to the early days. Where do you hail from? What was your childhood like? Some influences into who you became there. Let's just cover that briefly.
Yeah, man. I grew up in a small town called Mount Washington, Kentucky. Okay. And just your typical kind of southern town, rural community, right? Around a lot of farmland at that time. My grandfather was a real estate developer. My other grandfather was built banks. He was in the banking industry. My father was a banker as well. My mom was a nurse, and just grew up. It's like just kind of average, middle class, played a lot of sports.
Nice life.
Yeah. Good life. People that loved me, had everything. Didn't have everything, but had everything we needed. Right. And, like most kids, right. Just grow up in a town where you're trying to find out who you are. And, I found out, at a very early age that performance was a good way to keep me safe. Yeah. Performing and surviving and, doing whatever I could to make myself look bigger and better than what I really was or what I really felt internally. And so I played a lot of sports, kind of hid behind that for many, many years. And then ended up my senior year, man. It's so funny. I kind of got the acting bug. I'd always thought to myself, I loved like doing impressions and, doing little plays in the backyard and all that kind of stuff. Always kind of had that artsy element to me. And ended up my senior year auditioning for the school play, which of course I was like the jock, right? And
you're like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. So much so that it's funny. I passed this poster going down the hallway and it was Grease. Remember the movie Grease?
Yeah.
Grease Lightning, Danny Zuko, right? And I was like, I think I could do that. you know? And of course I remember like, just like looking at real quickly when the audition was, and like, you know, I got my backpack on, I show up that next day and I'm like looking around, make sure nobody sees me. And I like open the door and they're like, Will, what the hell are you doing here? You know, I was like, oh, I thought I'd audition if that's okay, you know? And so I ended up getting the part and really took it seriously and kind of got all into it. And so much so that I didn't play baseball my senior year because I really wanted to hyper focus on this performance. And so I ended up doing that. And that kind of really launched me into kind of a whole different phase of my life. So yeah, that's childhood, man. You know?
Did you get any backlash for like not playing baseball?
It was so funny, man. Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? You know, and, you know, your buddies, you know, they're joking around, but it was so cool to see, like, we ended up doing the first show in front of the school in an afternoon. So all the kids got out of school, you know, out of class, and they got to come. And it was like the very, you know, the jocks, the football players, the baseball players, the basketball players, man, they were all front and center and they loved it, you know?
Yeah.
I think they were just like, good for you, dude.
That's
you know?
awesome.
And so it was cool, man. So
it reminds me of when I was in high school, my senior year, the girls on the cheerleading team, because I was a football player.
Yep.
They're like, you should do the competition team. And I'm like, my junior year, I was like, nah, that's sissy boy stuff, you know? I do no cheerleading.
Yeah.
And so my senior year, they asked me, and I'm doing it. And of course, guys on the team gave me crap, right?
Oh,
and I still played football. My coach was just like, don't be throwing people up till the season's over, you know?
Yep.
Don't get hurt.
Yep.
But we actually did the routine at one of the biggest basketball games. And of course, my whole team was sitting there, and I could see their smiles. And I'm like, gosh, you know, I'm all like in my uniform, but we're throwing people in the air. I'm like, I was really good at it. And they were like, dude, that was really impressive. And I actually ended up doing camps and stuff after high school, and, you know, could have had a future in that, but things shifted. But yeah, you just kind of said, screw it, and just did what you wanted to do. And it actually, I don't know, stoked something different in you.
Yeah, man. No, that's so cool. It's funny. I had a buddy did the same thing, and him and two other guys. He went to a different school, but we were pretty close friends. He ended up getting on the cheerleading squad as well, and we were like, "You sissy, what are you doing?" And then, dude, that summer he starts sending me pictures because he was going to these cheerleading camps, right?
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, 100 girls to every one guy.
Yeah, he was like an instructor.
Well, he was on the team, right?
Okay,
he was on the
so I was an instructor for those kind of camps.
Okay, well,
yeah,
he was on the cheerleading squad in high school at
Sweet.
the time, but they would go to these summer camps, and yeah, you were the guys instructing, and it was just like, and he's like, yeah, who's the fool now, you know? And I was like, God, this guy knew what he was doing, man.
I know, man. I remember telling my friends about going to the camps and being one of the instructors, and they were like, dude, you've got it made. I was like, this is the best job I've ever had. Sweet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so funny. Who would you say influenced you the most as a kid?
You know, my grandfather was a big influence. I'm named after him. He's George William Hardy II.
Okay.
I'm the fourth. And he was just a pinnacle, man, a pinnacle in the community. Someone I really, really looked up to, you know, just to show how intentional he was. He actually just passed away about 8 months ago.
Sorry for your loss.
8-9 months ago. And I was able to do the funeral. It was very special, you know, because I was back home, and very, very tough. But he died at 94, lived an incredible life, lived an amazing legacy, you know, married to the same woman for, you know, 65 years, you know, or heck, longer than that. And she's still alive. But you know, every Wednesday he was a banker, and that was his day off. And in the summers, every Wednesday he would take me golfing with him.
Yeah.
And you just look back on that moment, and you go, man, like, I know how I am, right? Like, you know, I get a day off, it's like, I'm exhausted. I just want to, you know, binge or veg out, or, you know, I just want some selfish time, you know, or whatever. And it's like the fact that he took my, you know, 14-year-old little boy, 15-year-old little boy every Wednesday to play golf with him. It just showed how intentional he was.
That's really cool.
To show that love and build that legacy.
Nice. He seems to have had a big impact on you.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, if you could say something to him right now, what would you say?
Oh, man. I mean, I would say I'd miss him for sure. Just thank you, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you for always believing in me.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I'm sure he's proud of you too. Thank you for your vulnerability and, you know, being willing to say that. So
didn't know I was getting that question.
Yeah. I know it catches people by surprise.
Yeah, that's good.
It's one of those things I do ask it most of the time when people express loss. Yeah. It's very interesting to hear what people say, you know, but it's also like comes from the heart. So yeah,
definitely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I will never stop working on myself. Right. Like you
should. Yeah.
You know, it's like an onion, right? There's another layer that needs to be peeled off. And I think that, you know, God knows that. right?
Yeah.
Like God knows that, like I'm a firm believer, right? There's, like he doesn't condemn me for drinking, right?
No.
He knows, he's like, there's going to come a time that I'll be ready to walk you through that, but you need a little break, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need a little, just like medication, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, but he also knows he's so patient, and he already sees the, the end from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows where you're going to sit at 80 years of age.
Yeah.
Right. He knows where I sit at 80 years of age.
Yeah.
And I believe we're going to be much wholer. We're going to be continually being more whole and full of love, full of life, full of happiness, full of joy. But you got to do the fucking work, man.
You got to do the work.
It just doesn't come.
I'm going to be ripping off masks till the day I die.
Yes.
It's that constant growth, man.
I love your transparency, bro.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. It encourages me, man. Cause I'll be honest with you, you don't get this a lot from men, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, I have a tendency to pull it out of men because I go after it so hard. And,
Yeah.
And I also make myself fully vulnerable.
Yeah.
That's the key. It's
Feels
like
trust.
Yeah. Trust, safety. And all of a sudden they're like, fuck, man, I'm going through this too,
Yeah.
And then before you know it, it's that back to that iron sharpens iron, right? You get two men in a room and you just start sharing your weaknesses, and transparency. And before you know it, it's like, you just feel lighter.
Yeah.
You just feel lighter getting it out, just bringing it to the light.
Yes.
So
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm getting chills. I'm pumped up.
Dude, I love
this.
it, man. I love it.
Before we kind of transition, what was an early belief that shaped the man?
Gosh, man. It was interesting. I always thought I was going to do something great in life. I think that was, I grew up with a father that was a great man, very loyal to the community, to the family, but was always this kind of the glass is half empty kind of a guy, and I think I always had to oversell my positive attitude, my positive energy, right? The way I would dream, the way I would say things out loud. One day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to be that. One day I'm going to do this. And he'd be like, yeah, well, we'll see about that, And it was just like this, something inside of me that I said at a very young age, I made a vow to myself, that was probably helpful and hurtful in some ways, if I'm being honest, like looking back in my life. But I made a vow that was like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove the world that I'm enough.
Yeah.
That I can do it. I can be enough. Right. And looking back on that now, right. That's just a little, insecure little boy.
Your first chip on the shoulder.
Yeah. Insecure little boy, going, hey, I'll use ego. If I have to use ego, I'll use charisma. I'll use whatever it takes to make it, because I will not fail. Right.
Yeah.
And again, part of that was a good thing. It built a foundation of grit and determination, in facing the fears of life that keep a lot of people held back, that I was like, I'm all in, I'm going for it, but at the same time, looking back on that, it was a little boy just trying to perform and trying to become somebody just to be approved,
Dang. Yeah. That's interesting. It's like, there's a difference, because I believe in that kind of drive, but absent of what other people think, I mean, you probably realize that now based off what you're saying, when it's, you probably still have that, but it's different when it's like, dude, I'm just going the direction I'm supposed to, and I'll do it at all costs, rather than like in order to prove something to somebody else.
That's right. Yeah,
man, that's a crazy shift.
No, it is. It is for sure. And, and again, part of that dark night of the soul, I think, experience was kind of like, you have nothing else to prove, right? Yeah. Like you've got the accolades, you've been fairly successful, what you've put your hands to, you've built. But it's like this second half is about other people. It's about real passion. It's about a higher level of purpose. It's about transparency. It's about vulnerability. It's about bringing hope to people. I always say I want to be a hope dealer.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be a
100%.
hope dealer to the world, because, man, we need it in so many extreme ways. But for me, that doesn't come from peacocking. It's like I've been in all the business meetings where, if you've seen this before, right? You walk in and everybody's there in their suit, and they're looking at what car you just drove in. They're looking at what watch you're wearing. Whatever it is, they're sizing you up. And the first thing they do after they say, "Hey, my name is so and so," they say, "What do you do?" Right? Yeah. It's never who are you. It's never about being. It's always about
something.
It's always about doing. You know. And so, I mean, you know, I get it. I mean, that's normal in life, but it's like, for me, it's like, no, I want to know the man on the inside.
110%. I
Yeah.
could, well, it's because like absent of all that stuff, like, you know, I talk about this all the time, absent of the material things, the money you have, who are you?
Yeah,
Like, that's what I care about.
absolutely.
Because that stuff can be gone in a moment,
Absolutely.
you know, and then all you have left is who's on the inside. And that's what I always try to find in people, man, because
Yeah.
that's the true
Well, that's the goal.
heart of somebody.
That's the goal, man.
Yeah.
You know,
I've gotten to where I can't even have like surface level conversations really.
the same way, man.
Like,
I think once you get to that level of transparency and vulnerability, it's so life-giving,
Yeah.
right? It's so life-giving, and it builds so much community. It's just hard to go back, man.
yeah, it is.
I mean, it really is.
I probably haven't watched a pro sport in years just
Yeah.
because I just kind of like, by doing so, it just kind of separated me from all that.
Yeah.
So I can tell you who plays for what. You know what I'm saying? Is Brett Favre still doing his thing? I don't know.
Dude, I'm absolutely the same way, bro. The only way I get my sports statistics are from my sons.
Yeah. You're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
When was the Super Bowl?
Yeah, they're like, Dad, the NBA championship's time. I'm like, oh, great. You want to watch it? You know, didn't know.
That's
You
funny,
know?
man.
Yeah. So
Would you say there's any early like child at that point in your life, is there any significant like maybe wounds or, you know, points in your life that kind of play effect into who you became, right? You know, any defining moments.
gosh, man, you know, there were several. And I know these now because I've done some pretty intense inner healing and some therapeutic kind of, you know, situations where it's kind of brought these things to light.
Yeah.
You know, like things that you didn't remember.
Yeah.
Right? Things that you didn't know happened. And, man, I'll give you a couple real quick. So one, when I was little, you know, I was a basketball player, right? And so I was always constantly trying to find my way in approval through sports. You know, it's like, you know, if you could score enough, you get the MVP. If you win the championship, you know, then your dad will look at you and say, you know, you did it, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I was, so every night I was training for this free throw championship thing. Like, and I ended up winning an international free throw championship
Okay.
competition. And every night it was kind of like even OCD, but every night I would like be out in the backyard shooting basketball. And I had this thing in my head that I got to hit, you know, so many shots before I could go in, like in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some nights I would be literally just dripping sweat. Like I could almost not even put a basketball up again. And, you know, if the number was 20 and I'd get to 19, I'd miss 20 and I'd have to start all over, right?
Dang, yeah.
And it just got to the point where it was like almost like an OCD kind of a thing, right? And so I remember that, like looking back on that little boy that just needed so much approval, so much acceptance, and the weight that I was putting on myself, you know, and how that really brought trauma, I think, in my life in certain ways. And then another piece is when I went to high school, I didn't even remember this happened, right? But I was always this, you know, kind of skinny, athletic kid. And then I get, you know, this great basketball player in middle school, get to high school, and all of a sudden I hit puberty late, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a late bloomer. You know, I ended up growing 6 inches my senior year, right? So, you know, I'm 6'3" now, but like, you know, but I didn't have that then. And then all of a sudden you get into freshman year and, you know, because I'm not growing, I'm getting a little chubbier, you know, and, I'm just all these other kids, like, you know, they got hair all over them and they're building muscle mass and they're a lot faster than I am now. And it was just, I remember like how traumatized I was to just go, I don't have it anymore. But in my mind, I thought I did. Right. And I walk out and I remember I would dread if they would do, you know, remember basketball, they do shirts and skins, right?
Oh, you didn't want to be skins.
Team up. Yeah. Oh God, no, I didn't want to be skins, man. Yeah. And so I had these little side handle thing, you know, side handles. And I kind of pull my shorts up kind of over it. And I'm a freshman and I walk out there and sure enough, skin, right? And I'm like, shit. And the senior comes over and basically starts making fun of me, you know, grabbing my boobs and like, you know, going, oh, look at you, you know, pulling your little pants up and whatever. And I just remembered like, you know, and of course you try to be tough about it. You know, you try to just go,
Oh, yeah.
You know, but it's embarrassing as hell. Right.
Oh, yeah. You're like wearing t-shirts at the beach. You one of those kids? Cause I was like that. I'd wear a t-shirt cause I was same kind of thing.
Yeah,
I get
no,
that.
I would, man. And, you know, but and most people are like, listen, get over it, rub some dirt on it, get back out there.
Yeah.
And that's a generation I lived in, right? I mean, we lived in a very rural community. There was a lot of good people, but there's a lot of rednecks too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And, and it was a tough world out there. And there's a lot of hurt kids and hurt people. But just, a jab like that, you don't think that affects you. But I built a body shame image around myself from that one moment, right? And I said, I will never be fat again.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just went on this crazy journey of like, exercise and body. And of course it led me into modeling and acting and, whatever.
Yeah.
But, and again, that's just a small story, but it's like something that I look back on and, that can be magnetized. I mean, that could be multiplied by, another 100 stories.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's significant, cause I can relate to that. And a lot of people can, because you like that body dysmorphia, man. You can be in such good shape, but it's never good enough.
I know, man. Absolutely.
I'm constantly like, God, I'm such a sloppy piece of crap. My wife's like, Joe, but it's just like what you see. And it's good in a way, cause you got like a standard, right?
Right.
I see that one benefit, but other than that, it's just like, you're giving yourself a lot more crap than you need to be.
Yes, man.
And you talk about that self-pressure, man, like that kind of adds into it, especially when you're growing businesses and you're doing whatever.
Yep.
All the pressure is there and you're grateful for it. But I think we give ourselves the pressure we give ourselves is the heaviest.
100%, man.
We can work through the other stuff, but we put so much on ourselves that's what attacks the mind and our health, like
Absolutely.
Internally as well.
Well, and that's what drives us to shame, right?
Yeah.
That's what drives us to, turning inward, right?
Yeah.
And the shame and the guilt and all the things that we do to escape and to hide,
Exactly.
And so I'm sitting in a therapy session one day and all of a sudden I get a vision of that little chubby kid and getting made fun of. And I didn't even realize that I'd held on to that wound. I didn't realize that I'd held on to that pain, and it's like, and all of a sudden it comes out and you're just bawling, and you're just like, I'm not that person. Right.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, you want to go back to that little boy and just kind of put your arms around him and be like, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right.
It's really cool when you go back and unlock that. Now fast forward a little bit, obviously you graduated high school.
Yeah.
You moved away. So what was life like? I guess, you had a lot of real estate success. We could kind of fast forward there. Yep. Unless there's anything really significant in college and stuff, but
So I went to EKU, Eastern Kentucky University, was president of my fraternity out there. Nice. And my dad was like, oh, wow, that's where we're going. I'm like, listen, if you can micromanage 60 idiots, you can run any company in the world. This is what I was thinking, So it's funny looking back on that. It's kind of like a training ground, if you will, to, this kind of leadership, entrepreneur lifestyle. But my senior year, man, I really was really passionate about the acting and the modeling thing, and ended up doing a competition in New York, did really well. And I ended up booking a gig on Days of Our Lives. Okay. And so 14 credit hours short of graduating, I pack up bags. I moved to LA by myself to start this journey of acting.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, talk about a leap.
It was wild, man. Yeah. I slept in my car for the first 3 days in a Walmart parking lot, tried to get situated, tried to get acclimated. And, and I had some successes out there, and that really gave me the passion of, what the industry is, but it was also a tough road too, Yeah. So after about, 3 years-ish of working and not working, man, I had this kind of radical spiritual encounter with God, and just felt like, it was time to move on to a different path, which led me to Atlanta. And that's where I met my wife. And I'll never forget this, man. You get married, and like what you talked about, right? You get married, and all of a sudden you're pregnant, you have your first child, and you're like, I got to go to work. Like I've got to, I was doing some men's ministry at the time. I was associate pastor of a church, and, making very little to nothing. And the first Flip This House show came on ever, like in the history of like HGTV. Okay. And I remember sitting there like kind of depressed, like kind of going like, how am I going to pay the bills? What's going to go on? And I'm watching this renovation of this house. And I don't know why I thought this, Joe, but in my mind, I go, I think I can do that. Like, I think I can do that. And my wife came home that day and I was like, I'm going to flip a house. And she was like, okay, how are you going to flip a house? We got like $100 to our name, And sure enough, I did. I went out and started driving around, looking at streets and real estate, and ended up calling an agent, and ended up getting a banker to loan me my first construction loan. I mean, literally I have $100 in my name
Yeah.
He gives me a construction note, and I was able to, and I did all the work myself, basically, right? Not like I was a great
It was
contractor.
a grind, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like a lipstick on a pig kind of property. It wasn't ripping out all the
Making it livable.
Yeah. It's like new carpet, new paint, washing down the cabinets, new countertops, landscape in the backyard, whatever. And I ended up selling that, making, I think, $7,000. And I was like, oh my God, I'm rich,
Yeah. This is wealth.
and that just gave me the bug, man. And I just ended up, over 18 years, we flipped about 1,200 properties.
Man, that's impressive. I'll tell you what too, the thing that sticks out to me though, is like this epiphany and you just go for it.
Yeah.
Like you get up and you just step into it. You're like, I'm doing this, man. And I love that. Because even if you take on a path that's like not necessarily the path you're supposed to be on, at least you did it. At least you can see for yourself that wasn't the direction you're supposed to go.
Yeah, man.
And so I value that, like, across the board. If you're willing to just get up and go, because it's so hard for people to just get up and start something. They think about it and they think about it till they can't think about it anymore.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate that, because I'm right there with you.
It's funny you bring that up, because right about that season of my life, I was in this kind of, I had this incredible and spiritual encounter with God. But then there was a lot of religion tied to it, and then, for me, I just took my old performance as that little boy trying to prove himself to his father. And I basically just turned that into my relationship with my Heavenly Father now.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, I know how this works. Right.
Yeah.
If I'm perfect, if I fast enough, if I pray enough, if I give enough, then you're going to love me. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was like, which is the total opposite of the gospel.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And I was a broken sinner, right? Messed up on drugs and alcohol and all the promiscuous things I was doing in LA. And he's like, I want you just like that, And so as I'm kind of walking this thing out, I remember like I was so afraid that if I went left when I should go right, I was going to miss the will of God. Right.
Yeah.
That, or he was going to whack me with a rod and put me back out in the wilderness for another 40 years.
Yeah.
Learn your lesson now, And so it just paralyzed me. And my wife, we laugh about this now, but she had a little bit of a spending addiction.
Oh, spending addiction.
Spending addiction. Yeah. And so, I was like, God, you gave me this woman, it's like that whole Adam and Eve situation. It's like, you gave me this woman. It's like, I've got to provide for her, know? And I was like, and I just refused to keep fighting about money and trying to, I was like, God, here's what I'm doing. I'm going this way. And God, I just ask that you bless my hands, because I'm not looking back, and I'm all in on this real estate thing. And man, it just, he did, right? But it was that proactive step. I mean, I always say you can't steer a parked car, right?
No, nope.
Like you got to get the car moving.
Yeah.
Right. Like you don't know how to get, you don't know what's around the bend. You don't know, where the highway starts. You don't know if another car's coming on site, right down the road, but it's like, you got to get moving, and if I could say that to anybody out there, I don't care what you're doing, what you're locked up in, whether it's fear, whether you've lost a business, whether you've got a broken marriage, it's like, you just got to get up and get out there again, and just get moving, man, and I've never had where I've seen the end, it's like we get a glimpse. I call that like maybe a vision or a dream of like, like as a little boy, I saw myself in movies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember sitting with my mom. She was an avid Days of Our Lives fan. Her and my sister both. This is where you had the VHS tapes where you had to tape it because they had to work. They'd come home every night and watch it. And I'll never forget this. I was, I think, 7 years of age. I looked over at my mom and I said, one day I'm going to be on that show. And I was.
That's really cool.
And I don't know how all that plays out. But what I do know is that you got to have a dream to start something, right? Or a passion or a purpose. But man, I've never had anything more than one step. Like just one step in front of me, right?
That's amazing.
And then I get the one step and, there's the second step,
Yeah. I mean, if you take that step at the end of the day, like no matter what, you're going to gain something from it.
Yeah.
And it may not be, you may step in a direction wanting to make $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Just for an easy example. But that step may take you to some really hard places.
100%.
But the value in that, probably worth more than that $1 million. Yeah. And you could take that with you too to make $1 million. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. If there's anything I could take back, man, like I'm asking my own question now, but
yeah, go for it.
Well, it kind of took me somewhere, because I thought, man, what would I tell that 22, or well, at that time I was 25, 26, right around there when I kind of started. What would I go back and tell that younger version of me? I would say, I wish I would have enjoyed the journey a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was so worried about getting it all right, you know, that I just like, there was a part of the education process, right? It's like if your 3-year-old child, when they started to walk, right, and they're up on their feet and all of a sudden they fall on their knees, you don't look at them and go, what are you doing? Like, you're like, oh, that was awesome, you took one step, let's do it again. You know, and you're all in on this love and joy of this child learning, right? And that's the thing, when you learn, you're going to fall, right? When you start that business, when you start that marriage, whatever it is, like, you're going to learn, you're going to fall a lot. And I think I just beat myself up a lot more about that. And looking back on it, I wish I could have just had a little bit more joy and peace in the journey. Yeah. You know, instead of just like I was so busy on getting to the destination that I missed a lot of the journey, I think.
100%, man. Well, that's good wisdom to share with people too, man. I mean, that's something I think I've come to that a lot recently, but it's also good to hear that again, you know, because that's just so important. Because like that when I was in that building, I missed a lot of it. Yeah, because I was so focused on
stress.
That
bro. Stress, right? Provision, carrying the weight.
Well, it's hard when you do, like, everybody talks about being present, but presence is hard when you're like building something off of belief and faith, and you've got to think ahead for your family and think, you know, with the responsibility that comes along with it. Like, presence can be a hard thing to find, so you have to be extremely intentional about it.
It's I think it's the most difficult thing that I've ever tried to conquer in my life. Yeah. It's presence. Yeah. Yeah.
At least you're self-aware of it and you're working on it.
Yeah. 100%, man. I mean, you know, I think we're all trying to become the highest versions of what we can be. Yeah. Or at least I'd like to think that. Right. But there's been a lot of pits along the way, man. Yeah. You know, a lot of obstacles that take you out, and a lot of pain, man. You know, trauma and pain and disappointment. Right. Yeah. You know, you put your heart out there for that dream and it fails. Right. It's like, what do you do next? You know, do you become bitter? Do you become frustrated? Do you become callous? Do you go, well, I'll never do that again?
You pivot.
Know? Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's what you need to do. Right. It's like, that's okay. Yeah. But when fear tries to lock you down, right, and get you to that place to where it's that scripture talks about being a double-minded man, unstable in his ways. Like, I've had those dark night of the soul seasons where it's like fear will paralyze you to such a degree that you're like, I don't even know how to move.
There's no way out of it.
Yeah. Like, just absolute, which is why I'm so passionate about suicide, right? Like, in people that have lost their lives and lost loved ones because of that, because it's at an all-time high, man. Right? Oh, yeah. But that lie, that's why I want to see hope come to the world, man, because, you know, it's never over. Yeah. It's never over.
Yeah.
You know?
It takes me to my, you know, I lay down with my daughter almost every night and cuddle her and stuff. And, you know, I say certain things to her like, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm so proud of you. You're so capable. You're so strong. I repeat these every single night.
Good for you, man.
But one thing I tell her is like, don't let anybody make you fear anything. Don't have fear. Yeah. Because like people are conditioned to fear. Yeah. From a lot of different things. And it's like, don't let people terrify you. Fear nothing. Man. And like, I want to embed that in her because man, I went through most of my life like fearful of this or that. What happens if this? Oh, I'm not going to go talk to this person. What if they turn me away? Could have been a life-changing opportunity. You never know.
100%.
But fear will hold you back, and that'll kill you before anything, before any risk. You know what I'm saying? So I want to instill that in her mind so that way as she gets older, she's like, she just sees the world. She's like, I can go any direction I want.
That's so good.
And I believe in that.
Yeah, you're a good dad. Those declarations are so important, bro. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that my kid, like, I'm like, the curse word in our family is if you say I can't. If you say I can't do something, that's when I lose it, right? It's like, you can say anything else. You can have a bad day. You can cuss a little. You can say, Dad, this pisses me, you know, whatever. But it's like when you say I can't, that's like, what'd you say? You know?
Get those words out of your mouth.
I mean, really, because it's just like, it shapes who we are, man.
100%.
You know? And that those limiting mindsets. What is it, that analogy of Michael Jordan, right? Where he's like shot, 600 and so many game-winning shots, right? Yeah. The ball in his hand, 3 seconds on the clock. You got, you know, the game is on the line and you're the man to do it. And I want to say that out of whatever, I'm going to mess this stat up. Somebody look it up, but it's 600 and some shots. He made like 150, right?
Okay.
And it's like, nobody remembers the 400 and something he missed. You only hold on to those 150 moments that he saved the day, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's it. That's at the end of the day, man, take the shot.
Take the shot.
Take the shot. And if you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah, you'll get to shoot again.
You'll get to shoot again, man.
Right on, man. I freaking love that. God, you got me fired up with this conversation too.
Listen, it gets me pumped, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna go out to like, you know, see your kid.
It's so funny as I'm saying this. It's like the last 2 weeks I've been, you know, semi-depressed, right?
Yeah.
Like just in my own little funk of like, you know, some obstacles going on, some things going on in my life right now and decisions I got to make. But it's like, but I'm like, that's why I have to say this. Cause I'm like, but this is the reality. You know?
It's honest.
Yeah.
You can't act like nothing affects you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm pretty positive and I go. But yeah, there's days like yesterday, man, on my way here, I was just like, I was in tears thinking about some stuff. I was just so like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they'll creep up on you.
Yeah.
But then you talk about it. I called my wife. I'm like, listen, like I just need to breathe for a second.
Yeah.
And then, so you're doing that here with me, man. I love it. So good reset for you.
Yeah.
Stepping away from the church,
Yeah.
you know, so you were saying you went into real estate. Was there like a lot of deep issues straying away from ministry?
Man, I'll tell you, all right, I'll give you a story. So I was in real estate, but I was also still heavily involved in the church, right?
Okay.
Like the church that we were involved in. And, but I was just making my income money now through real estate. And man, I was just, again, taking that little boy that had to prove himself and then taking that into my spirituality as well. I was doing a lot of fasting. You know, like now it's kind of cool to talk about intermittent fasting and, you know, what it does for your body and your health and all that. But I was doing it in a very legalistic, ritualistic way because I wanted to be anointed by God. I want to be used by God, you know, which is why would as a father, why would we go, hey son, I want to use you. Right.
Yeah.
But again, just the wrong mindset that you have in that moment. And so I ended up literally doing like 7 21-day fast in 1 year, like just straight water. Right. I did a 33-day fast, only water, like just crazy stuff. And it ended up leading me to basically back-to-back lung collapses. And
really?
Yeah, it did. And so that was right when 2008 happened. So here I finally get a little bit of success under my belt with real estate, got some money in the bank. I'm comfortable for the first time, you know, in my career. And then boom, everybody remembers 2008, the real estate crash.
Yeah.
Well, at the exact moment that happened, I had my second lung collapse. And so I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, had to go into surgery, and I basically was bedridden for 6 months.
Gosh.
Yeah. And so as I'm recovering from this, and I know you've had some crazy accidents as well, but as you know how, you know, again, I'm taking pain pills, right? Which I hate that feeling, but it was just like, you know, I was in so much pain. You know, of course I feel terrible for my wife because we had 3 small children at the time and she's homeschooling them and taking care of them and taking care of me in the bed.
Gosh, yeah, a lot of responsibility.
And I'm watching the savings account dwindle to nothing. I've got banks trying to call my notes due. I'm calling the banks going, I'm making payments. Like, what are you talking about? But they were in so much fear. And, you know, everybody, a lot of my friends were just like, here's the keys. I'm out, you know? And I was just like, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm a man of integrity. I'm going to pay the bill. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Just bear with me. You know, I'm calling doctors because I didn't have insurance going, hey, I'll make the payment on the bills. And so it was a very depressing season.
Yeah. It's heavy.
And so going back to that church piece, I remember laying there one day and I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. And what I was saying is I can't live up to this expectation of performance any longer. And so God, if you can't find love for me without fasting, if you can't find love for me without praying 7 hours a day, if you can't find love for me without giving X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Like basically I just went back to going like, God, then that's not the Father I think I know anyways. And so something just shifted in me where it took me out of the constraints of the church, put me on a path of some deconstruction to where I had to realign myself with who he really is. Right.
Yes.
For us, for all of us. Right. And that was freeing on so many levels.
Yeah. Breaking away from the dogma,
the hierarchy, the dogma, the religion bull crap, you know, that just, you know, it's the Pharisaical really approach to religion. Right. It's like, you know, oh, I know all the scriptures. Right.
Exactly what Christ turned the tables on.
100%.
You know?
100%.
So it's like, there's a reason he did that.
Yes.
So maybe pay attention to just the walk. And that, you know, that's just my perspective. But so you shifted your focus into like maybe some of those deeper layers of like, hey, what is Christ, what was he doing?
Absolutely.
How do I walk like that?
And it came back to going like, listen, I would never put these regimen things on my kids, right?
Yeah.
To have them prove their love to me, right? And so just my mind shift was, God, I'm in the darkest place, right? I've got to go rebuild now. I don't even know how to rebuild. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm walking through recovery of this surgery I've just had.
Yeah.
I'm down to $5,000, right, in the bank account. And I had, I think, 9 properties at the time that I'm carrying mortgages on because they were going to be flips.
Yeah.
Well, nobody was buying anymore. So I had to end up making all those rentals, and ended up calling a buddy one day. And I just told my wife, I said, I've got to get back out in the game and do something.
Yeah.
And I called my buddy. He had a roofing company, and he knew me as this kind of successful real estate guy. And I said, I need a pair of boots. I need a pen and a pad. I said, would you hire me to go sell roofs for you?
Dang. So you got into roofing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Take us from there.
Yeah, man. So just, again, kind of looked at my wife, and you know, and it was extremely tough that season. But I was just like, man, when you get down to nothing again, you're just like, you got to do what it takes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's that kind of grit sets in. And again, it was kind of lonely. Yeah. I'll never forget that the guy was like, all right, well, you're going to come to, 2 weeks of training, this and that. I was like, you've got 1 day to train me.
Yeah.
I was like, you got 1 day. I said, man, I got sales. Don't worry about sales.
Yeah.
I said, you got 1 day to train me. He was just like, Will, nobody gets trained in 1 day. I said, well, you've got 24 hours. I said, because I've got to go make some money for my wife and kids, and just got out there and started hustling, knocking on doors, and again, going back to that rejection piece, right? It's like, you knock on 10 doors, 9 reject you.
Yeah.
And, but I finally ended up, doing very well. Within the first 3 months, I was outperforming all the top salesmen. And it just got, put food on the table, got me back in a position where I got my health back. And I can't say I woke up like going, I love doing this every day, but it was just like, it's what you got to do.
You had that drive, man.
Yeah. And I learned a lot from it, and ended up, basically after about 16 months of that was enough time for the real estate market to kind of recover. And it hadn't fully recovered, but I just was like, because at that time I was like, I didn't know if I was ever going to be back in real estate again. Like I was like, I don't know. Cause the banks had dried up. That's all the funding I'd ever gotten. And a friend of mine, actually at church, he was a real estate agent. He knew I had kind of the interior design background and the flipping experience, and kind of knew what I was doing. And he's like, man, what if we start a company? And he said, we knew cash was going to be king. So we were like, let's build an investor network. Let's build a one-stop shop to make it easy for people to invest into buying and selling real estate. And that's basically what we did, man. And I couldn't believe it. The first guy that I think ever gave us like $500,000, we were like, oh my God, this guy just gave us $500,000. And man, we grew it from, flipping 10 houses to 50 houses to, I think one year we did 126 houses all across the Atlanta market. And we had investors all over the world just throwing money at us because we were good at what we did, and they were making great returns.
There's good money in that. I gave a guy back in like, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, maybe 6. I gave him like 50 grand. 6 months later, he gave me a check back for 75 grand. Made 25 grand in 6 months, and I didn't even have to do anything.
That's great.
You're
like hard money lending, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, it's really smart. I mean, especially if you want to give money to the right people.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very lucrative if you play it right.
Yeah, and it was the prime market because we were getting properties for
super cheap,
pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Right. And then but we did a great product too, right? So we'd strip down to bare nothing, and new electrical, new plumbing, new everything, and we constantly had to up our game because we had some of the best flippers in the world living in Atlanta, right? So especially some of these higher end markets. So we constantly had to up our game of the class of the home and the design of the home. But we did very, very well with it, man, for a long time.
That's really cool. So, but that didn't last. Didn't last. So
didn't last.
You said you had 2 back-to-back lung collapses, right?
Yeah.
I think you stated that.
Yeah.
So what comes, there's obviously a shift somewhere here.
So we were on that kind of that what felt kind of like easy street, kids are growing. My wife is, homeschooling the kids, the business is growing. And of course, you have, shit that happens along the way, right? A bad deal that goes here, or this happens, or that happens, but overall we were living very comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's when, like I said, that kind of dark night of the soul. At some point I started getting heavily into buying rentals, and then I ended up getting into the short-term rental game. So before Airbnb was big, I was buying dilapidated vacation homes in like Highlands, North Carolina, Myrtle
That's a
Beach.
beautiful area.
It's awesome. Yeah. Cashers. We got one in Cashers at the time, and Myrtle Beach, and, St. Simon's Island. And I would basically, I would take our savings and I would invest it in these homes. I'd fix it up and put it on platforms like Vrbo and Airbnb. And that did very well. But again, I was managing all of this. So I was doing the flips. I was doing the manage it. It was just a lot, And then fast forward to that's when that dark night of the soul thing hit. And I'll never forget this. I woke up after the third day. My wife could tell I was like kind of a walking zombie, and I'd already had this welcome to the divine interruption. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And my wife goes, why don't you stay home today? Let's just sit, let's talk. And I'll never forget this, man. She goes, what do you want? And I go, I don't know. She's like, just, what do you want? Get out of your head, get into your heart. What do you want? If you could have anything right now, what do you want? And I go, honestly, I want to sell everything and I want to start over. And without even a moment of hesitation, she goes, let's do that. And I was like, what are you saying? No, I'm crazy over here.
Yeah, don't listen to me.
I'm out of my mind right now. Like, I need you to be the sane adult in the room right now, but what's so cool about my wife, and especially that moment, is like, just with her saying that, it's okay. You can do this. You're enough. It was like, I could just feel the weight fall off.
Oh man.
I could just feel the heaviness fall off, and I looked at her and I said, well, look, I'm going to pray about this for a few days. And I said, cause I really, this is a big decision to make. I want to make sure that it's the right decision.
Yeah.
And I tell you, Joe, at that very moment, I literally thought, I don't know if I'll ever do real estate again. I don't know what's around the bend. Of course, I knew I would have a nest egg, once we sold everything, but I was like, I don't know what's next for my life. And this was at 42. Right?
Yeah.
Going, I'm literally starting over. And I'd always had a dream to be a filmmaker, and I'd had some irons in the fire with that at the time that I'm sure we'll dive into at some point. But yeah, man. And sure enough, 3 days later, I said, okay, we're going to do it. And we sold everything. We took a 30-day vacation to Antigua with the family.
Nice.
Cause I'd never done anything like that.
That's a heck of a vacation.
And it was kind of like, get off grid and just, really let the kids know, hey, thank you. Dad's had to work a lot, and, but this is like a celebration, and this is God's goodness to our life. And, we couldn't have gotten here without him. And we're going to take a moment to breathe together as a family.
That's cool though. It
was awesome.
Yeah.
And my goal was I was going to take 6 months off and really just kind of recalibrate, kind of rest a little bit, read a few more books, think about.
I feel like you started twitching a little bit.
Well, I know my wife would be twitching if she watched this, but 10 days into the vacation, I get an email from my friend about this abandoned hotel in Bardstown.
Yeah.
And it took me like 3 days I got her hopped up on some mimosas one morning at breakfast, just to ease the tension. And I said, hey, what do you think about us? I know we're taking 6 months off, but what do you think about us buying this abandoned hotel in Bardstown, Kentucky, the bourbon capital of the world? And I'll never forget it. She kind of like took a drink and like rolls her eyes. She's like, honestly, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. What a wild thing to do. Have you seen Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
Oh my, we love that show.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's so good. It's so funny, and it's pretty wholesome too.
Oh yeah.
But for some reason, it always makes me think of that. Like they just
end
up rebuilding this hotel. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and at the time we thought, I thought I could do it from afar. I thought, I'll just be, one of the owners and investors. But, I said, we're not moving to Kentucky. That's crazy. Like, we love Atlanta. This is home for us. The kids, that's all they ever know. And after about 2 years of just me traveling back and forth and just realizing nobody cares about your baby quite like you do.
Yeah.
I finally just went to my wife one day and said, babe, actually, funny enough, no, she said, I think it's time that we move to Kentucky. And I was like, what? Because we had a TV show we were working on with Magnolia Network at the time. She wanted to start a women's fashion boutique shop. So we bought a building downtown and opened up Caden Lake for her, which is named after our daughters. I did a high-end cocktail emporium in the back called Liam Ash, named after our sons. So it was just we moved 3 times in 2 years trying to get settled out there. So it was just another wild season, man.
Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy though, but you took that leap of faith. You just, something came to you and you're like, let's jump on this opportunity.
Yeah.
Did you ever question the decision?
Yeah, man, for sure. This was such a big obstacle. I mean, you take a hotel that we thought we were going to build for $12 million, ends up being $30 million, right? And so you get into this thing going, man, I thought I was pretty intelligent about real estate.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's just a whole nother beast, right?
Of
learning and falling and trying to figure it out. And And, you know, you get to the other side of that. And yeah, still today I go, God, did we make the right decision? Like moving here, like really, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there again, it's just like, I just try not to stay in that space too long though. You know, I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, either way, whatever it was, it's going to work out for good. You know, he's directing our steps. You know, we all have decisions to make, but you know, my intentions are right. My heart's right. Like seeing my kids make that transfer was the hardest thing I've ever watched as a father. Because like the last day we're sitting there and we were always the house that all the kids came to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we want to be that house.
Yeah.
And that last night when we're packing up, we got a 26-foot U-Haul truck in the back. In all, you know, we're driving out 4 cars to Kentucky. I'm leaving my oldest son in college in Atlanta, and which is already hard for mom, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with my 3 other kids and all their friends, and we're all just crying. I mean, it's like we're leaving, you know? And of course they had to, you know, make new friends and go to new schools and try new experiences. And it was very stressful for them for a long time. And about a year into it, I took the kids out to dinner one night. We got the hotel open. I just said, guys, first off, what a journey, right?
Yeah.
I'm proud of you guys. Like, you know, we're here now. And I'm like, look, looking back on it, do you think we're in the right place? You know? And I think I needed it maybe more than they needed it. And they were like, Dad, I can't even believe we're saying this, but this is home. This is where we're supposed to be.
That's awesome.
And it's just like a tear, you know, just like, you know,
gosh, I made a good decision.
It's like, oh, I didn't totally screw up my kids, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just cool, man, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, we were at this house now, and it's just even then, we talked about it. Like my biggest goal this year is to get us to where we can just get some property out.
Yeah, man.
And just something simple, but like some property, simple home. We want to get out of renting. We want to be on some land, you know, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
So important to me. And, but we talked about it. It's just like, but the things that have happened here in this home.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I proposed in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, it was simple, but it was perfect. We had our daughter here, you know, like I moved there during a hard season. It's going to be emotional.
A lot of memories.
It's what you build there in that place, man. That's what you become attached to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
a lot of memories.
I do want to ask a double question on that.
Okay.
The hotel, what did it teach you about creativity and leadership? Because I think those things tie in when it comes to a hotel and the employees and all that stuff, but you got to be extremely creative for it to be successful.
Yeah.
But that physical build, what did it do for you internally?
So the first thing I would say, you know, get into the ingenuity piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the design element, the creativity piece of that. That was super important because I'm a big believer that, you know, if you're looking to become successful or find success or start a business or make some money doing something, you got to find where the gap is, right? What the need is, right? If you want to find real success, it's like you find the problem, you fix it.
Yeah.
Well, I immediately looked into Bardstown, Kentucky, being the bourbon capital of the world. We've got 11 of the top distilleries in the world within a 15-mile radius of this hotel.
Wow.
So again, it's like Napa Valley, you know, if you're going to wine country. And I'd been to Bardstown several times. I was familiar with the area, and it was beautiful. It's been named cutest little town in America multiple times.
That's cool.
So it's like something out of a Hallmark card,
Yeah.
right? But the one piece that was missing was a higher level of hospitality. So they had no high-end lodging. They had no great place to have a nice steak. I'm looking at the Bourbon Trail and going, I've done this before, but it's kind of complicated, right? If you don't know where to go, you got to set up a tour here and you got to have transportation to get to the next one. And well, I thought that was 10 minutes away, but it's really 20 minutes away on country roads. And I found it to be very difficult. So I was like, I want to build a one-stop shop where we're making it easy, kind of like InvestorNet, where we're making it easy for the consumer, the tourist, to come to Bardstown and enjoy the Bourbon Trail. So we built what's called the Bourbon Butler inside the hotel that basically takes you by the hand and curates your package for you. That's cool. Sets up your tours, sets up your tasting, sets up your hotel, your reservations, and then basically transports you back and forth. And so it's little things like that, right? Like just thinking outside the box to go, I'm not just building a hotel, I'm building a destination. I'm building a bourbon resort experience. And what does that look like? And so, but funny enough, I'd always loved hospitality, which is why I think I got in the short-term rental space. And I love creating beautiful atmospheres. My wife is amazing at this as well. As, you know, we like to, you know, roll out the dinner table and have this amazing dinner experience where we invite friends and family over and they go, wow, this is done right. You know, we just take a lot of passion in that. But there was still a lot I had to learn, right? So it's like I'm reading, you know, Horst Schultz's book, you know, the owner of Ritz-Carlton, right? I'm reading his book on, the elements of hospitality and how important they are. And so the ingenuity part was a lot of fun for me. The other side of that, the insecurities of just things I still didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, now I'm dealing with full-blown architects, right? Full-blown blueprints. I'm dealing with, banks and investors. I'm dealing with historic tax credits because we got about $7.5 million of historic tax credits brought back into the project, right? And these are all new territory for me, right?
You're just learning everything on the go.
On the fly, bro.
Yeah.
And probably butched a lot of it up, even looking back on it, like, I wish I would have done that different, but it was just like, again, it's kind of like that adrenaline rush that made me want to feel really insecure in a lot of those moments of going like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now, but then also just putting your head down and just going, you know what, I'm doing this in faith. Like I'm going to do all I can do today to get to the next step. And then boom, 4 years later, we opened this gorgeous hotel and it was like, we're there.
It's interesting. Like the amount of stuff you've learned when you're on your toes, the pressure's on, you really don't know what's ahead. You already put so much into it. And it's just like, but it's really cool because it shows you, if you're willing to do so, your capability, man. Like you'll surprise yourself. Like, I mean, you probably like, dude, I learned this. Like you can step back and be proud of the fact that you took this on and you learned so many different things from it.
Yep.
I mean, I can reflect on my journey and be like, man, I just never thought.
Sure.
And here I am in different aspects, man. It's just really crazy how the journey, where it takes you when you're just willing to go.
100%. I want to add something to that, Joe, because like I can see that about you, your transparency, your vulnerability. I mean, just when we first got in the room, it's like we just lit up, right? It's like, man, we're homeboys already.
Yeah.
But, looking back on, the old Will, right? The pre-42-year-old Will, right? That I felt I had to carry everything and I had to be somebody and I had to, I couldn't let anybody know that I wasn't the smartest guy in the room or whatever it might be. Like this next phase for me, and I would say that's the most proud part of my journey, my own personal inner healing and therapy that I've done, is that I have no problem now going, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't, like, it's like every step of the way through that hotel, it's like I had no problem finding a guy like you, Joe, that might have done it before and go, dude, how'd you do it?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like, dude, I need help with this, and I think that right there, man. And you realize that the world really does want to help each other.
Yeah.
It's how people will love to be needed as well. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, you find that for me, it was like, I didn't have to figure it all out my own. I actually had people around me that I could ask questions to and just go, dude, I need help. Like, what would you do if I was in my situation right now?
You got to have that humility,
yeah,
to be able to like actually approach someone. Yeah. And I'm meeting some people too that are like really ahead of me in like production and media stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to be asking them,
show
like,
me
hey,
what to do, bro.
Yeah. What got you in the door with that? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Why it doesn't hurt. No one's going to sit there. Very rarely someone be like, no, it's my information, right?
Sure.
Because you're building a relationship too.
But at the end of the day, the only reason we don't do that is ego. Right?
Oh,
I mean, that's the only thing that keeps us from that, crossing over that barrier to grab another brother's hand and be like, dude, I could really use your advice on this.
110%. I do got a quick question too. And then I got my final question and we'll close out. Man, I really want to dive into your internal work and therapy. So I think this is going to be a really good place to start off. And we'll take the road down some of these things we've talked about already, because I'm sure there's more to it. Right. But why therapy now?
Oh man, my wife and I got to a place, and I'll be honest with you, she spurred this on. She was like the first catalyst to this. Because again, I had that religion piece thing where I was like, listen, I've got Jesus, I've got prayer, I've got my meditation, I've got the word. Like, I mean, what else do I need?
Yeah.
And yet at some point in your life, you just go, but my soul is not prospering.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I still don't have the level of joy I want to have. I still don't have the level of presence I want to have. I still have those little addictions that pull me away, the toxic habits that make me want to distract myself or not want to even sit in my own presence, right? Alone, right? And so I think at some point, if you're curious enough, and I think that's the thing, because dude, there's a lot of unconscious people walking all over the world. Yeah. And I'm just telling you, I think if you become a conscious person, it's very hard to sit around unconscious people.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not talking about perfect people. I'm not talking about, gurus and, whatever. I'm just people that go, I want to become the healthiest version of what I can be. Right. Like, my wife, and she's talked about this openly, like, she had an anger issue. Right. And this was from her childhood and things that she had grown up with. And you know, even though she was the most loving mother in the world, she was the mother that wanted to create Disneyland for our kids and every experience, every birthday, because she never had that given to her, right? She never had that birthday. She never,
a lot like my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. She had to raise herself, right? In a lot of regards. And so, you know, she would do that, right? But through doing that, making that party perfect, she couldn't be present or she'd get agitated because the cake didn't turn out right, or this didn't happen, or that didn't happen, or the kid didn't appreciate that gift enough, or whatever, right? Yeah. And then so she finally hit a wall where she was just like I've got to go on a journey, because whatever is going on inside of me, I know that I'm not, like, I'm overreacting and acting out of a pain and a wound, and it's not my children's fault, right? It's something within me internally. Man. And so we're sitting in the hot tub one night, man, and she goes, "I'm going to go to a therapist." And I was like, "What? Therapist? Like, come on." Yeah. Like, come on. You got Jesus, you got you got the Holy Spirit. Come on, babe. Like, we don't do therapy, right? And again, that ego, right? That like, what are people going to think of us?
And past generations is more.
Oh, dude, yeah. 20 years ago, you're talking about inner healing therapy, finding the little boy inside of you. Yeah. Like, you get smacked in the head.
Like,
you know?
Toughen up.
You little sissy, you know? But now the world
don't ever heal.
Yeah, right. But now the world is embracing it in a much greater open fashion, if you will. And really, man, so she did that. She started off going to this therapist, and you know, really, dude, it provoked me to jealousy, because after about 3 months, I started seeing some things change inside of her. And it scared the hell out of me, really, because I thought, man, she might get so healed, she's going to go, I should never married you. You know,
they say personal growth is not something you take alone in a marriage. Well, because you will grow apart.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. And by the grace of God, and again, because we're both intuitive, and I think, you know, he knew our path, but it takes two people, right? Yeah. And I think if I would have just, you know, put up a wall of pride, put up ego, I think she would have went this way, and I think I would have stayed here.
Yeah. I might have stayed in the same home, but she would have been in a whole different place. You never know.
1000%, man. Yeah. And I didn't want to see that. And again, like I said, it provoked me to jealousy, because I was like, man, maybe this is working. Maybe this works, you know? And so, dude, boom. You know, it's funny. My first therapist ever was a lady named Catherine, and I would drive to Buckhead to meet her once a week. And I'll never forget this. I've sat down in the chair like this, and it's kind of come in like, you know, kind of guarded, kind of jaded. And I'm an open person, but I was just like, I don't know what this is about. Yeah. You know, this voodoo, hoodoo, you know, whatever crap's going on. Yeah. And I was just like, and I remember telling her, I'm here for these 5 reasons. I need you to fix these 5, you know? Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. You know? And we don't touch those 5, right? Yeah. And so this went on for like 3 months, and she's not touching any of the things that I'm really saying I want to deal with, you know? And I remember I got so agitated. I looked at her and I said, you're a terrible therapist. Like, and I was serious. I was like, you're terrible at this. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I've been here for 3 months. I told you the 5 issues, you know, that I wanted to handle, I wanted to deal with, and we haven't touched one of them, you know? Now you're just playing mind tricks with me, right? Yeah. But they know what they're doing, obviously. And she knew the journey I really needed to go on. And it was just like, man, something started clicking, you know, and it took me back to, you know, some childhood experiences. It took me back to my own personal insecurities and fears, some anxieties that I've held on to, you know, the fact that I didn't love myself, man.
A lot of things you didn't realize you had to work on.
Oh man, no, because I'm a positive guy, you know. I'm you know, I walk in the room, I'm smiling. Everybody thinks everything's great with Will, you know. And again, in a lot of regards, I lived a great life. I live a great life today. But there were still some things that I was holding on to, some past hurts, some past pains, wounds that I just didn't know how to deal with. Yeah. You know? And so, man, I think kind of opened up Pandora's box.
Oh yeah, man. And that's going to be a whole nother thing. So obviously it's like, we're right at the time for you to leave. You got to leave in a few minutes. Yeah. So I don't want to cut you off, but I think that's a really good starting play. We're going to get back together. Man. Guys, Will's going to be back. You're going to have to be here for that. But this is, I mean, a killer introduction to, you know, whatever we do together down the road, but I'm definitely bringing you back 100%. Thanks, so, and I'm just super grateful for your time today, man, for just coming out of your way after traveling here and getting in the studio with me.
Bro, you're killing it.
It means the world.
You're killing it, dude.
Hell yeah, man. I do got to ask you, this is the question I ask every episode.
Yep.
Will, what is your relentless pursuit?
My relentless pursuit, has become very clear now is that I want to inspire and bring hope to the world through film. Yeah. That's where I'm really going all in this next season of my life. Took me 18 years to get my first film project completed. It's called Hershey. It's on the life of Milton Hershey. I'm happy to say it's going to come out Thanksgiving weekend this year.
Nice.
Yes. It's going to be an epic movie. We shot it in Pittsburgh last summer. Finn Whitrock plays Milton Hershey. Kitty is played by Alexandria Daddario. Mark Waters is a director. All-star cast. Incredible production. Hershey's got the full Hershey engine moving this with marketing and advertising. So you're going to see it on chocolate bars all over the world. You know, the movie posters, the trailers.
That's huge.
It's massive. It's going to be, it's epic. So that is awesome. And that is a story of hope, man. If you don't know the life of Milton Hershey, which I didn't know until 18 years ago, a friend of mine, Michael Fulcher, who is one of my producing partners now, we wrote the script together, the original script. And man, we got there after 18 years of just nothing but not giving up.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know his story, but your movie is going to be my introduction to it. And then,
thank you.
Then I'll dive into it more, obviously.
Please. Your daughter will love it as well.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. That is a huge deal. Man, well, yeah, I look forward to seeing that, but I plan on seeing you before then.
Absolutely.
So we're going to make that happen. And real quick, we'll dive into this too and the inspiration behind it.
Sure.
But tell people about your podcast.
Yeah. I started a podcast called Interrupt.
Okay.
Kind of a play on the words interrupt.
Okay.
And those divine interruptions, how if we keep a positive attitude, they actually are meant to take us higher, not to take us lower. And I don't think we're sharing enough of those stories. And that's what I so much appreciate about your podcast is getting into the messy middle, right? So you can follow us on, you can follow me with interruptwithwill.com. And that's the platform page. And of course it's on, YouTube and Spotify and, all the big Apple podcast platforms. And I'm just having fun with that, man. I've had some incredible guests on the show that are really high-end leaders from all areas of life, which are a lot of fun. The 4 pillars are really about parenting, marriage, the entrepreneur lifestyle, and mind, body, soul. Right
on.
So we're trying to hit all the kind of the pillars that I think have, created some success in my life, as well. So,
awesome.
So you can follow that. And if you're ever in Bardstown, Kentucky, come to the Trail Hotel, man.
Yes, sir.
It's awesome. We're doing great things with that. And best is yet to come, brother.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Well, guys, show them some love. Will, thank you for your time. I'm going to shake your hand real quick.
Yeah, man. Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate you, sir.
Absolutely.
All right, Will.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, guys. Until next time. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this show, and honestly in life, is that healing doesn't live in just one lane. Some people find it through addiction recovery, some through therapy, some through faith, some through hard conversations that they've avoided for years, and some for finally being honest about what they're carrying. I started this show to give people a voice, to share real journeys, real struggles, and real growth. And what it's shown me is how many people are walking through similar battles, even if it looks different on the surface. Through this platform, I've been connected with people across so many lanes: addiction recovery, mental health, veterans and first responders, faith, marriage and relationships, trauma, and everything in between. I want to say this clearly. If you're listening right now and you're struggling, please reach out. You don't need to know exactly what you need. You don't need the right words. You don't have to even know exactly where to start, but through my network, I'll do everything I can to get you connected with the right person in the right lane for where you are. That's what this show is about. Real stories, real connection, and reminding people that there is a way forward.